So you have this idea at this point that you want to start a gun company. Is that where you're at mentally?
I mean, to be honest, it was interesting. I wanted to start a company, and so actually the team name we used on the show was Team Eclipse, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And it was kind of parallel with the Horizon piece. I was big into waterfowl at the time, and a male duck at a certain time
you were big into shooting waterfowl.
Shooting waterfowl, yeah. Hunting waterfowl, yeah. And so when a male mallard duck, once a year, he loses all of his feathers, all of his color, and loses the ability to fly for a small period of time. And when he's uncolored and coming out of that, it's called the eclipse phase. And so we were like Team Eclipse and whatever. And so I actually drew and tried to get a patent for what I called the duck puck, which is basically a decoy thing, and it didn't work. And so Horizon's going about the same time. We're doing the Ranchan TV show deal, and I get a phone call from a guy. We had started a website too. Created one of those, dude. I learned how to do Dreamweaver and created my own website.
That's better than me. My first one was GoDaddy.
Yeah, there you go,
point
man.
and click.
So like doing code on the side, And anyway, the guy calls me and says, "Hey, these guns you're using, I mean, where do you get them at?" And I had a buddy in Wyoming. His name is Hazer Bulkley, and he had a Powder River, gun company basically. And he had made us a couple custom guns, custom at the time, which basically meant they were super accurate on a Remington 700 Action with a new barrel on them and a painted stock, right? Like custom at that time meant they were accurate. It didn't mean it was actually custom. And I was like, oh, people are actually watching what I'm using, and they want to use what I use. I bet I could sell one. So I call him real fast. Hey, can you make me a gun that I can sell? And he's like, well, yeah. He said, but I don't really want to do this much and whatever. And I will do the barrels, and I'll teach you how to do the rest, and you can handle all the rest of the stuff. I mean, shoot. So I got a FFL in the homestead house that I was in, and called the guy back and said, yeah. So
was that the address for the FFL? Was
the
homestead house?
Horizon Firearms was started on the same property as Casper Companies, just 100 years later, and we had an FFL at the homestead house.
That's crazy. Yeah, and for those listening, after Derrick left the homestead house, I moved into the homestead house with my family when I moved to Shiner with that well that was hand dug by Cheris's ancestors.
Exactly, man. And so it was, and that was cool part of the history as well. I was like, man, we're starting the company in the same place that like all the other stuff had started. And so told the guy what I would sell it to him for. He's like, yeah, I'll take one. And got it to him, and then quickly after that, another person started asking. So then I called Hazer back and said, look, dude, we're going to do this thing. I'm going to buy a lathe and all this stuff. So at the time, my day job had also changed. So Ranchan was going through some transformations, and we thought at the time the company was going to get acquired. I'm like, man, we can't both be working for the same company and get acquired. And so I actually took a job with Caselco, which you remember that. So Caselco,
electrocoagulation.
I sold electrocoagulation wastewater units to mines and municipalities to clean up chromium. And we basically
another Casper business, led by Doug Casper, and they had a bunch of patents on that technology. And
so I sold wastewater by day and helped them get that company positioned right to sell. And as soon as Caselco sold, that was my marker. So Caselco sold. Horizon, I had sold a couple guns. We wanted to move back to College Station. We started building a house, and we were maybe a week away from my first son being born. So I said, hey, look, they're selling that company.
A lot happening.
Here's our time. So we moved, quit my job. My wife was working remote, and I moved a lathe into the garage and started building custom guns. So yesterday we got a chance to do mountain hunting. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're on the plains here with John X here, and we're going to be looking for Leshway.
Pretty amazing, hey?
I've heard about all these companies that start in their garage, and your company is actually the only company that I know personally that literally started in a garage. And I've been in that garage. It was a nice garage.
Hey, it was a pretty nice garage. The equipment wasn't the greatest. I bought a bunch of cheap, Grizzly equipment. And then my favorite is, I had kind of a budget where I was going to buy machines, and I didn't have enough budget to buy a real Cerakote oven. So Cerakote is the kind of paint you put on it, and then it's a name brand, kind of like Kleenex, and then you bake this paint on there. So you have to have an oven that goes 350 degrees for an hour.
So let's pause for a second and talk about what is involved in the process of making a gun, because people are thinking, okay, I mean, this sounds like it's a big undertaking,
Yeah.
right? And they're what, 4 or 5 pieces to a gun?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got the barrel, you got the trigger, the action.
You got the action.
The stock.
The stock, and then bottom metal if you include that not with the stock piece. Bottom metal is basically what holds the magazine.
So when you're starting this process of, hey, I want to make these custom rifles, you are having to go and source these 5 components.
Correct.
And then you are assembling them.
Correct.
You're putting your magic touch on them.
Yep.
And what is that magic touch?
At that point, man, it was interesting because mostly it's a simple. So like what was happening in the market at that time, and again, things just line up. So there was a company in the market that was really leading in the long range space. And so when I say long range, I want to define that. So most of the time it was all about being accurate, 200 yards with a long shot. Well, these guys went out and said, well, we're going to shoot everything at 500, 1,000. And they were like purposely taking long shots, and it was lighting the opinion of people on fire and polarizing the market. And when I saw an opportunity, I'm like, man, they're going to polarize the market, but they're doing it at such a high price. I can build these custom guns with more, and all their guns look the same, right? You buy one, I buy one, there's no personality. So I can build that gun a little bit cheaper, and I can do individual flair on it so that your gun and my gun are not the same. And then when you go to hunting camp, you can explain, like, man, I designed
So the
this
value
myself.
proposition at the time was less expensive, much cooler looking.
Much cooler looking. Yep.
Same accuracy.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so what we did is we counter-positioned accuracy. So everybody's when people said custom up until about 2010, people thought about, well, if I buy a custom gun, I'm going to go get an old guy in a small shop to hand make me something that's more accurate. And it didn't look like anything. The whole reason I wanted it because it was more accurate. So we went and sourced really, really good parts. And then, like the gun here, and then we do like custom colors. And like custom at the time would be like, I would paint it tan and I'd spray some spooshes of green on it, right? Like that was wild. Like that's really custom.
Okay, so here is a Horizon rifle. This is a 22 Creedmoor?
It's 22 Creedmoor.
Okay, which we're going to talk about the 22 Creedmoor in a second.
So
but
this one is truly custom. So when we said custom, we said truly custom. So basically, let me talk about this gun a little bit. So 22 Creedmoor, and it's themed after our family. So on the other side of it, we can show a tight shot later. Then the other shot of it, there's actually that brand on there is our logo. And it's the actual hot iron brand that came over with my family in 1876 on the wagon. We heated it up. This is pecan wood from our family tree that my great grandmother used to host picnics under, and it got struck by lightning. So we took a piece of the wood, cast it, and we made it like look new on the front end, and then old on the back end on purpose. Did a fake break here to show like the formation of it, hand painted rust, and then this fluting style. So this like cosmetic machining in the barrel was something that we leaned into hard because people said, oh, well, you can't have a custom gun with fluting, it won't be accurate. So we like would find those pieces and do it on purpose.
For those listening like on iTunes or Spotify, what Derrick is pointing out is that the barrel of the gun has this spiral fluting at the end versus what your traditional just kind of straight looking flat
It
barrel.
almost looks like it's rifled on the outside.
Yes.
Right? And like a big giant drill bit or an ice bit is kind of what we got.
And what are the advantages of that?
Man, a lot of it is it's real dang cool, right?
Besides the cool factor.
Outside of that, you take a lot of weight out. So we can get a steel barrel to weigh closer to a carbon fiber barrel. So if you're in a heavier, more stiff barrel will be more accurate. So I can use a heavier contour barrel to keep the accuracy and then drop the weight. And
so it creates better rigidity?
Correct. Yeah, it maintains the rigidity.
I see.
Where like if I was going to do a small barrel versus a barrel this size, as the barrel heated up, your point of impact would change. So it leaves me having rigidity, gives a cool factor, takes out the weight, and then the other thing is, depending on the flute style, it adds a little bit of surface area because you're adding concaves where you had basically material on the other side, and it helps the barrel cool from shot to shot a little faster.
Okay.
So it's all about gaining that accuracy, but again, we counter-positioned accuracy because the way we wanted to do it was every custom gun, if you're spending that kind of money, it better be accurate. That's not why you buy it. You buy it because you can and you want to express yourself, and that's kind of the
when you can't afford to miss.
When you can't afford to miss, man, that was like one of our first slogans. I love it.